I said, Dwayne, you put your hand in the back of my belt here, and if something happens, that thing starts to move or anything, you yank me out of here. He said, okay. I don't remember much after that.
Hi, welcome to This Is My Story, a podcast of the Memorial Road Church of Christ. I'm your host, Shelley Eisen. Today we're talking with Dan Waugh, one of our elders. Dan will share about his life as a twin, his unique childhood, plus 2 significant accidents that left him with severe, even life-threatening injuries. Dan, thanks for joining us. To start off, tell us about your faith journey. Did you grow up going to church? Did that come later for you?
No, I grew up going to church from the beginning of my life. My grandfather was a gospel preacher for all of his life. And his daughter, my mom, fell in suit with, everybody and, was a Christian very early on. And then my granddad, my mom's mom, converted my father. And then they got married. My mom and dad did. That was kind of, maybe one of the criteria for them getting married, You need to either believe, but he was a believer but wasn't going to church much. They became married in, 58 or something like that. And then my brother and I were born in 60.
You were born in Sentinel, spent some time in Lubbock, and then ultimately your family moved to Tipton, Oklahoma to work at the children's home there. What was it like to grow up as one of the house families there?
So we ended up there in 1965 with my brother and I and 4 other siblings. They're all younger than us. The first night, I'll just tell you one story. The first night we were there, we were in a room, in a bed, and there were 22 kids younger than us, my brother and I. So now you know what age group 20 kids were with my mom and dad. And we were sitting there crying because we weren't inside the room, which was right behind us with a big plate glass window. So they could see us, but we were in the room with everybody else. So we were kind of like, what are we doing here? Why are we, But, after that, you accommodate and things. It was great in the sense that our parents separated us not because we were separate from the individuals that were living there, but because they wanted to have a family, too. So we kind of had our own little quarters, and then we mingled with everybody else. So it was kind of a challenged youth growing up. We were at the children's home, but not children of the children's home. So we were kind of the in-betweeners, not town kids, not home kids, but house parents' kids. So it was a little challenging, but we didn't know any better. So we just made the best of it.
Do you think that did a lot to form who you became?
I think it formed our family to be a very tight-knit family. It formed us that all of us now are all very intertwined. There's no animosity or everything. We're just a team working together as a family. So in our family, we've got 2 preachers. One of them is the director of the children's home now, and myself as an elder here, and then a sister that is a elder's wife, and then another sister that's in Texas with her husband. So it really flourished and made us strong about our faith because we think we had to be together. Mother and father were very strong in their faith, and that kind of knitted us together real well.
So kind of as you grew up, you came here. Did you meet your wife here?
I did, yeah. My wife was here since 1969, going to Memorial Road. She was a daughter of the math professor at Oklahoma Christian, and they went to school here. And so she was in my brother's youth group. And so I said, well, do you need any help with youth group things? And I went over and we met at one of their outings on a Sunday evening because they used to get together on Sunday evenings. So that's where we met, was early on in her junior year. So we dated for 2 years and then got married after her freshman year in college. Yeah.
You raised 3 children. Now you have some grandchildren.
Yep.
You guys have a lot. And now you're an elder. You
Yep.
guys have been a big part of this church.
Yeah, I would say so. But, it's because there were mentors that helped us along the way. Early on, I got involved in the disaster relief ministry. And the reason was because of Bob Harmon, one of our elders and one of the starters of the church here at Memorial Road. And he and his wife, Karen, were very involved in getting things done, especially Guthrie had floods and stuff. So we'd go down and over there and help them out and take things and make sure they were doing well and, just helping out the Guthrie church over there. And so that kind of started that. And then later on, it was like, we're going to go. There's a Hurricane Andrew in Miami. We loaded up a van, and the only thing in the van that had any room in it was the back where somebody could go to sleep. And we traveled 24 hours to Miami, dumped everything out, took a shower, drive 24 hours back home. It was kind of crazy, but, we were trying to get there and back and help out as quickly as we could. Those kind of things kind of helped formed okay, you got to serve. You got to do things. And you may not think you're doing something, but it helps out. So that kind of brought me into doing a lot more into different things with disaster relief and going and help out and things like that. And so doing things for others has always been one of the best things that I think value that I have.
It was on one of those trips that you experienced a pretty intense accident, right?
Yeah. So 2005, there was hurricane, I can't remember exactly the big hurricane, but Rita came after that one. It was in 2005, and there was many hurricanes. It was Katrina. Katrina hit New Orleans, and it devastated that. Then Rita comes up through eastern Texas. And so we went to Jasper, Texas to help out with that. And they have these big red cedar trees, massive red cedar trees. And we were cutting them down, getting them out of people's yards and trying to cut them up and just helping out the church there. So on the last day, little detail here, I'd been in the ball cap all day, all the time for the first 3 days that we were down there, just cutting trees and everything. And somebody said, "Hey, Dan, somebody dropped this helmet off with a face shield and earmuffs like that." He said, "Why don't you borrow it and use it?" And I said, "Oh, that sounds cool. I'll try it." So the first tree we went to was a tree that was a little susceptible, might be a little iffy to try to cut it down because it was what they call a widowmaker. One straight up and one at like a 45-degree angle, hitting the ground, and it's still in the middle at the tree. So I said, "Why don't we go get the forklift and put it underneath here in case this thing falls?" The forklift has a flat in it. So I said, "Well, it's okay. We'll just be careful." I put a V on the outside, like so it would fall down. And then Dwayne Shipman, I said, "Dwayne, you put your hand in the back of my belt here, and if something happens, that thing starts to move or anything, you yank me out of here." He said, "Okay." I don't remember much after that, because as soon as I put the blade in the other side of the tree fell on my head, knocked me out, and I'm on the ground. So I don't know the extent of my injuries at this time. But and then he got his knee hurt because it hit his knee. I'm just sitting there on the ground. They cut the tree off of me and pulled it off. And I sustained a broken neck, punctured lung with a broken rib. And then the tree finally landed on my pelvis and shattered my pelvis inside. And then from that shattering, I had internal bleeding. So I'm sitting there with all these injuries I don't know about. And so we were laying on the ground waiting for the ambulances and things like that. There was 3 or 4, S.L. Mullins, myself, Don Proctor, Dwayne, and maybe some other ones. And Valerie Waddell comes up. She's kind of leading this whole effort. And she's a paramedic type training, some of that kind of stuff. Don't move the neck. Make sure the head's stable, all that kind of stuff. And she's right here behind me. And so the only thing I have is Valerie in my sight. Now, okay, you're going to be fine. But before she got there, the one thing I remember was a gentleman that saw this happen came over. He was an African American. He came over and he says, I want to pray for you guys right now here in the field. So he said this great prayer. I can't remember what it was, but it was a great prayer. He was very charismatic about it. And I think that was a blessing at that point. You're sitting there, you don't know exactly what's going on. And then we finally got the ambulance there, and then Valerie's hopping in the ambulance with me. Go to the hospital, small hospital in Jasper, Texas. They don't know what to do. My blood pressure's going down because I'm internally bleeding and stuff like that. Finally figure out I need a tourniquet, so they put a sheet around my middle and just yank it as tight as they can. All this time I'm just focused. I don't talk to doctors. I just talk to Valerie, and she relays what's going on. And then they said, okay, we can't do anything here, so we're going to take you to Beaumont, Texas. So they take me to Beaumont. Beaumont says, we don't have any doctors here. Everybody's out cutting their yard and their trees off. So we go to UTMB down in Corpus or Houston area, Trauma One Center. All of this is happening while somebody's calling my wife in Oklahoma City, and they're saying, we need to get you to Houston. So they try to find a plane, but the only problem is every plane in the whole Oklahoma is at the OU Texas game in Dallas. So they finally find somebody. They get my wife on there and a friend of hers that her husband was trying to get this plane for us. And they meet me down there. And as soon as I'm starting to go into surgery, Robin shows up and I say, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, dear. They patched me up best they could. 3 or 4 days later, I get airlifted to Oklahoma City because it's just the distance and stuff. And then that's when they took care of me and several surgeries and things like that later. And then I would say it was 9 weeks afterwards before I could stand. I always had to be in a 45 position in a chair because I had pins that were in my pelvis on both sides, sticking out about 8 inches, and then a crossbar going across it between. So I had this metal sticking out of my body to keep everything intact. 12 weeks later, I get to go first walk, and that worked okay. And somewhere in between there, I had developed an infection, and it went to the break of my neck. And so now it's eaten away my spine at C6. And so I can't use my arms. I'm in terrible pain. Finally come in, they go take an x-rays and stuff, look at it and go, oh, that's staph infection in your neck. So we're going to go do surgery again. So they do surgery, 10 more days. But when I woke up from the first surgery they did in my neck, I was going, oh, I can feel my fingers again. I can actually use my hands now. So I was thankful. But what happened after that was they actually hit a vocal cord nerve. So I could talk like this. I couldn't talk anymore. That's about as loud as I could talk. But the only way I could talk with my wife and get her attention was to whistle. And we were at an event, and one of the guys said, okay, it's time. I said, it's time to go. I'm thinking in my head, it's time to go. So I whistled at because I could whistle real loud. So I whistled at my wife. What are you calling your wife like a dog for? I said, I can't talk to her any other way. So anyway, we just had this communication where we'd whistle and she'd turn and we'd have this eye to eye and know what was going on and go, say, okay, I'm going to go. Let's go, dear. So we'd go and things like that. But anyway, they finally put an implant in. And so one vocal cord works, one of them doesn't, but it sounds better.
I want to back up a little in your story. That helmet that day, I mean, what an incredible...
Yeah. I still have the helmet. It still has this big crack in it, and it's still on my shelf. I look at it and think, why was I provided the helmet to survive? Was it to go through this trial to see how I would act or how I would, what would become of it? I don't know. Is it, something God gave me to test me? Probably. How would I act during this, or how would I come out? What would I do with this story? I don't know. It's just something you kind of wonder about, but I still have the helmet.
I would say it's incredible. I think obviously God was not done with you.
Right.
Whatever your story was to be,
right.
He had more for you. Because your kids were young then, it sounds like, if it was 2005.
Yeah, my daughter she came in one day when I was in the hospital in Oklahoma City and said, Dad, I got my driver's license. I said, great. And Mom was, Robin was very happy because now she could drive the other 2 boys around to wherever they needed to go. So it was great that, it was about that time that she was able to help out.
I know you and Robin, you hike, you travel, you do all of these things, but do you have any lingering?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got a lingering nerve that was down my right leg, and it started about the bottom of my knee. From there down to the top of my toe, big toe, was just no feeling in the top. The good thing about it is I can feel the bottom of my foot, but not the top of my foot. Over 20 years, because it's coming up on the 20-year anniversary here, October the 8th, of that accident, the numbness has gone all the way down to just the top part of my foot now. So maybe another 20 years, I'll have a full functioning foot where the ankle and everything works properly. I kind of clop a little bit more whenever I run or walk because that nerve, you don't feel it. That's the only lingering thing I have.
That's such a huge event in your life. Are there any other trials that you've had?
Oh, you may not know about the other event. So in 2000...
Quick note here, he meant to say 2020.
We are sitting at, in our house, and I'm cleaning out our pool filter. So when we bought this house, I had a pool, thinking, okay, well, that'll be great for the kids. And the kids loved it and things, but I took care of it all the time. So one of the things I needed to do was go clean out the filters. It was the beginning of the year and things like that. And the filters were all dirty. And I said, I'm just going to go see what it would take to buy some more. So what I wanted to do, I put chemicals in the pool and I took the top off the filter. And I said, I'm just going to put it back on without the filters in it and leave the pressure valve open to pour water out. I didn't know. That's not a good thing to do. But I went back in, looked it up and said, how much does these filters cost? So from that point and to the point I'm on the ground in my daughter's arms, bleeding and hearing sirens, I don't remember a thing. But what happened was I went out to check it and the filter top blew off into my face. crushed my face. I got 7 points in my face where I've got metal in them to, make sure they're putting the bones back together. Broken nose, mouth, everything, braces in my mouth, down in the gums to put everything back together. It was so bad I could just move my teeth and my nose would move up and down because it broke my jaw and everything. So that's another incident. So COVID, I go to the hospital. Robin doesn't know where I'm going. Where are you taking him? I say, okay, let's go to Integris. They say, oh, we can't help you. We're going to take you to OU. I say, well, that's fine. But nobody called Robin. She doesn't know where I am. They've got my cell phone. So it's like a day and a half before they figure out where I am. So anyway, I spent 5 or 6 days, 3 or 4 days in the hospital then to go do surgery and all that kind of stuff to put my face back together. And I lost my sight in my left eye. Well, not sight. I was double visioned because it hit my head and it makes you like what do they call it? A boxer's punch where you get double vision. So I was wearing a patch like a pirate and all that kind of stuff for several weeks.
Are you okay now?
Oh, yeah.
Can you?
Everything's fine.
It regained?
I can see. Yep, okay. Regained and stuff.
So you're a twin, an identical twin. Your brother is a preacher in Yukon? Mustang. Okay. I feel like people are always curious about twins.
Yeah.
Especially when you're identical.
Right.
You guys just have this bond that people just cannot understand.
Yeah, I'll probably get emotional. It's a very special bond. So much so that we are so identical. We both went through prostate cancer together. And all of our numbers are almost exactly the same. And we went to the proton therapy and things. And so 29 treatments. Mine was probably about 4 months before him. And we're tracking our PSA levels and, everything. And so we're at the stage we got to do something. I said, I got to do something. Okay, he's following me right behind me. And so it's just kind of, you're doing exactly the same thing. I'll tell you another story in a minute. But anyway, we're both, it's supposed to be between 0 and 4. You're okay. It's normal is your PSA. And ours were above like 8 when we started the proton therapy. And now 2.5 years later, we're both below 1. So it's good. That's kind of one story about twins. The other one, we went to my mom's house, and we hadn't worked together because he had lived in Texas and then Nashville. When he came back to Oklahoma, we said, let's go help Mom out. She's got a wall we need to redo and stuff. So we're sitting there working, and I hand him a hammer, and he started laughing. He says, Dan, this is exactly the same hammer I got. I said, okay, well, let's go get our saw outside. He started laughing again. It's exactly the same saw unit that he has. So without us knowing, we had both bought exactly the same tools. So things like that are just normal for us. Mom used to... We used to be the twins, so we all dressed exactly alike until we were in 6th grade. When we finally went to 7th grade, we got to dress how we wanted to.
So you've had a lot of big things happen, and probably some you haven't even talked about. How do you feel like that has impacted your faith?
Yeah, I think that it has impacted my faith by seeing the people that have helped out. All these incidents, it's amazing the love people show you for what you're going through. And Memorial Road is great about this. I mean, the smaller classes make it so that people within the class help people within the class. But even at the time, it was just all these people coming to help. I remember being in a wheelchair out in the yard in a class. Many of those people that are here now were there helping one day clean up leaves and wash the car or something like that. They were just so willing to be there and help. That shaped my faith, along with just the mother, father, grandparents that were faithful for all their life. The love people have for each other shows what love you have for Christ in a special way. So if you love Christ, you can love others. And if you love others, you can love Christ. It always comes down to love. Service is a part of love. Jesus served. We need to serve, and we need to love.
Dan, this has been great. Thanks so much for talking to us today. As we close, I want to ask you one more question. Do you have a favorite hymn?
Oh, I've got 3 or 4 of them that I put down as you've got to lead these at my funeral. And I don't have the names because I take pictures and I don't have to remember the names. But one of them would be When Peace Like a River. So that one's one of my favorite songs. The other one, it's an old song. But if you listen to all 4 verses of How Great Thou Art, make you cry.
Thanks so much for joining us for this chat with Dan Waugh. I want to thank those who have helped to make this podcast come together. Robert Edwards, who has helped with scheduling, Andy Lashley, who has helped with so much behind the scenes as well, and Stephen Maxwell, who has helped with all of the music. If you have a story we need to share, reach out. We'd love to chat.